story. Well, welcome everybody. Appreciate your coming out tonight. I don't think we have any competitive sports games tonight, so we should be okay. The weather's good. Couple of new faces here. Appreciate everybody coming out. First order of business is to go over the minutes from the last meeting and hopefully everyone received them. Hopefully everybody read them, and I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Anybody?
I make a motion.
Very good. Thank you very much. Assuming everybody read the minutes, were there any corrections, discussion, anything that needs to be changed? Assuming none, can I get a motion to accept the minutes unanimously? So moved. Okay. And accepted. Sounds great. Speaking of that, I guess, you know, I never make a hard copy of the minutes. I send them out to everybody. I figure at your leisure, you'll read them, or if you're not interested, you won't read them. If you'd like to have a hard copy available at the meetings, is there any interest in having a hard copy? I figure it's safe free. Just take it home, shred it anyway, so it'll be all right. All right. Well, first order here, let's get our local police report. Sergeant Garcia.
Good evening, good evening.
Yes.
How's everybody doing? Good. Again, not much to pass along from last month, but previous to the last attendance, we had Captain Lockhart attend, and I don't know who was here or not, but she was our new captain of the district. Well, she already got promoted that fast, so. So she's now a major. But now we have Captain Yardley, who is our new North District captain, close friend. We worked together a lot during when I was recruiting. He was the training instructor at the police academy. So he made police. Amazing guy, amazing leader. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself and speak on his agenda now that he's the new captain. And if you have any questions, of course, we'll stay hang out to answer them for sure.
Yeah, hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Yardley. It was funny, I was driving up Quail Hollow here and I was having flashbacks to my childhood. I lived in Raleigh since about '89, and a buddy I went to grade school with, I went to Our Lady of Lourdes, for Our Lady of Lourdes, lived just down the road, and I was good friends with him. We played basketball, and so I spent a lot of time over here, but I've been with the department now for about June will be 25 years. Graduated from NC State, started into the police department right after that. Like Sergeant Garcia said, I spent a lot of my time in training, was the commandant of the academy, and also the lieutenant over training itself. And so I was fortunate to move out to a watch commander position not too long ago as a captain. And then really 2 weeks ago, moved over into the North District captain position. Technically, it's not official until Saturday, but with the vacancy from Major Lockhart, they're like, hey, we need you there Monday. So started Monday. So I'm very excited about this opportunity to work closer with the community and our officers. And if you haven't seen yet, one of the big initiatives we're doing is Cops on the Block. That was started with Chief Boyce. We came in Saturday and did over on Jacqueline Lane. And really what that entails is officers, I think we had maybe 10 or so. We just split up in groups and went door to door, knocking on people's doors, listening to their concerns, kind of hearing what the issues may be that the neighborhood is facing, because we always may see it from a different perspective on the law enforcement side. So it's important to have those conversations so we just have a mutual understanding of the issues that you folks are facing. So hopefully I'll be at more of these in the future. And if I can answer any of your questions or anything like that, hopefully I can.
And just a reminder, in terms of stats, please keep your doors and to your vehicles locked. Always double check. We're still getting those larceny from vehicles where people are leaving their valuables in their cars, leaving their doors unlocked, and people are just rummaging through. You know, let's make it difficult for those that are looking to do something and take something away. Make it hard for them. Don't make it that simple by leaving your stuff unlocked. Any questions while we're here? We don't want to take too much. Yes.
I've got one question. Maybe it's my imagination, but I'm seeing more and more people run red lights at intersections. Have y'all got any statistics that would indicate more accidents due to that? Or is it about something?
I don't know statistics wise, but I would say almost on a daily or if not every other day basis, there is a major crash. But the root cause of that is, I don't know, I think people are a little impatient these days, and I think they see yellow, they know it's going red, they're like, I gotta get to wherever I'm going, and they try to make that intersection.
And I fully realize the challenge y'all have about traffic. My son was with y'all for years. I fuss at him all the time. He'd sit me down and say, well, Dad, here's the reality. We don't have enough people, and traffic is the least of our concerns because of all the other stuff that goes on. I wish y'all could put 100 or 200 people out every day on traffic. If you had another 1,000 to do the other work.
Maybe we get there eventually.
Thank you.
I almost had an accident because they didn't even stop at the red. He just kept on going.
Yes.
I think it's a great thing that you get out knocking on doors, because if you build a relationship with the public, that makes a real big difference. I've talked to people in certain sections of the city that don't trust the police, and I think a lot of it's just that there's no, the relationship's not there. I guess my question would be, can we do more of this? Are we gonna start getting the numbers of police up from where they've been now? I know that's been one of the big things holding things up. I mean, you guys are generally out on calls all the time.
Right,
Is there a plan to start increasing the number of police?
there's always a plan, we're always hiring. So, I trust me, we're not on a hiring freeze, we will always hire, and until we fill, and then when we fill, we can ask for more. So we can't ask for more, we can't fill our numbers now.
Okay,
So, of course, that takes not just recruiters and the police officers that are also recruiters, that takes members of the public to put out there those young 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, kids graduating college, guys getting out of the military, all of the aspects of society that will improve our ranks, right? It cannot just fall on the shoulders of the police department to go find officers. It has to fall on the shoulders of the community and us together to say, hey, my nephew, my neighbor's friend, they're just graduating college, need a job, they're getting out of the military, they're just looking for something to do or a calling. Law enforcement would be it. So, understand it takes all of us, not just, the 4 recruiters in the recruiting unit to travel the country looking for officers. It takes everyone in this room, in the city, in the state, to get people that want to be in law enforcement. And there are, it's just finding them. And it's a hard, job to find people, but, we get them. Our academy classes are actually full. I mean, they're 45, 50 a class. Now we know some of them graduate, some of them leave. So there's always that cycle that happens. But I mean, I think once this class gets off of field training and the next class graduates, we're looking good. So then we can start kind of putting in more requests for more officers.
is the pay raise helping?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It helps. But it's, of course, more is better. So it just takes a minute to get that system going and get the officers and the recruits in the class, and then each class is 6 months. So while we're waiting for them to come out and help us, that's almost half a year. And then they have to do training once they graduate with a training officer, that's another 4 months. So we're looking at a year before we have someone sitting in the academy, graduating on their own, where they can actually start getting those spots filled. So, yeah, good question. Very good question. And of course, cops on block, that's always gonna happen. That's Chief Boyce's priority. We're gonna do that, not periodically, regularly. And we're just hitting any neighborhood, any community that we see, and we're gonna try to hit everywhere. Obviously, that's, a huge task, but that is being done all over the city. This month was just our turn. Maybe we'll do it again in 2 weeks or another month, and we just kind of pick the neighborhoods to be out there. So if we come to your neighborhood and knock on your door, it's not because something happened, it's just, we just want to say hello, introduce ourselves.
Can we make a request? I mean, how do we get
Sure, if
this
you want.
area?
Yeah, just email me. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to know is there has been a huge merge within the community outreach unit that I work in. So now we only have 2 squads, where one squad, which is mine, is responsible for the entire north side of the city. So we have the North District, the Northwest District, there's all of Glenwood and Bryan Creek, and now the northeast, which is everything from Raleigh Boulevard all the way to the mall. I mean, so now we have the whole north side of the city, and another squad has the entire south side, southwest, downtown, southeast. So I'm gonna be your main contact. There isn't, oh, that's another district, because here's a sergeant. No, now it's all, I'm in charge of that squad, so it'll be me. So one-stop shop.
So you're operating out of the 6 Forks?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So if anyone lives or knows of a concern in any other districts, that I'd be that contact person. So brief. Questions?
Thanks for coming.
Of course, we'll be here again next month. Have a good evening, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, moving right along. We have Het Patel with us tonight to update us on the possible Northern Corridor. I do.
Good evening, everyone. Het Patel, City of Raleigh Transportation Transit. I have a couple slides that I'm going to walk through. I'm here to talk about the Northern Bus Rapid Transit Corridor and the Bus Rapid Transit Program of Projects as a whole. I know you guys are more interested in the Northern Corridor, and that's where my focus is as well. So I will wait to get the screen going, and
I'm at the end, obviously.
Wow, that's fast.
well, thank you so much. So hopefully everyone has heard of Bus Rapid Transit in the community. This project was identified in 2016 when the Wake County voters approved a half-cent sales tax that went towards the transit enhancements that were planned for Wake County and its municipalities that are all falling within Wake County.
Give me a second and I'll get control here eventually. Not sure what's going on. I just found one people. Kathleen, you want to try to bring it up?
It's not on my computer.
Oh, great, okay. I can't,
If you mind, do you want me to drive real quick?
I can't do the layout, that's where the problem is.
Can you escape out of there and start over?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that.
Your arrow keys won't go back?
Oh, here we go, okay.
That's still not.
Okay, here we go. All right. No, wait a minute, that can't be right. Yeah, right.
There we go.
But that's the end, yeah. That's it, you got it. Bye-bye.
I don't know if
And I can drive.
online is able to see this, but.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, they can see it, they can see, and I can drive, so we're good. Whatever magic you did, we're good.
So you can go to the next couple of slides and we actually start off on that one. Yep, right here. So in 2016, again, the Wake County voters approved a half-cent sales tax that was dedicated towards transit enhancements in the county. There were 4 big moves that were identified as part of that plan, which was to connect the region, connect all Wake County communities, provide frequent, reliable urban mobility, and then enhancing access to transit. So Bus Rapid Transit really falls within that 3rd big move, which is providing frequent, reliable urban mobility. On the next slide, there are some key features of what makes Bus Rapid Transit stand out. And so really, dedicated bus lanes is the primary thing that separates Bus Rapid Transit from the local bus service. It was envisioned when this plan was set out that more than 50% of each corridor would have dedicated bus lanes that the buses were operating in that would help with the speed and reliability of that service. We also have enhanced stations. So these are level boarding stations. When the bus actually pulls up to the station, the floor of the bus is the same level as the platform, so you can get on and off the bus a lot more easily. If you have a mobility device, if you have a bicycle, any of those things are easier to bring on and off the bus. The buses would have signal priority at signalized intersections, so that's the ability for the bus to actually communicate with traffic signals and let the signal know if it needs some kind of an extended green signal or an early green signal to try to get through more congested areas, again, efficiently. Providing more frequent, reliable service really comes back to providing more service. And so the plan for bus rapid transit is that it would operate from 4 a.m. to midnight on weekends and 5:30 a.m. to, or 4 a.m. to midnight on weekdays and 5:30 a.m. to midnight on weekends. That's an hour more in each morning and evening timeframe than our regular bus service currently runs. And it would be more frequent. So at times in the morning and the afternoons when there's more people riding the buses, that would run at every 10 minutes. And then it would match the high frequent network, which is 15 to 20 minutes on the rest of the day for our existing services. It would also include off-board fare collection. So again, for bus rapid transit, the purpose for that is to try to get people on and off the bus more efficiently. So you purchase your fare before you actually get on the bus, as opposed to having to buy that fare when you're first walking onto the bus. So the next slide really shows the 4 key corridors that were initially identified in the Wake Transit Plan, and the dashed lines are some of the extensions that are currently under planning studies. So again, the solid lines are the lines that the city of Raleigh is currently working on for design and engineering work for our eastern corridor, which is New Bern Avenue. That's the most advanced of the bus rapid transit projects. The southern corridor connecting to town of Garner, western corridor connecting to town of Cary. And in that initial 2016 study, the Northern Corridor really ended within the belt line at the Greyhound station at Crabtree Boulevard. And since then, a couple iterations of the Wake Transit Plan have happened, which has envisioned the Northern Corridor to extend to Midtown Raleigh and to Triangle Town Center. Those are the dashed lines. And that's the reason why I'm here today, to talk about what that study really means for the bus rapid transit projects. So in the next slide, again, we started this planning study in 2022. The purpose is to provide that connection from downtown Raleigh to Midtown Raleigh and downtown Raleigh to Triangle Town Center. So we're not picking one or the other. We're trying to achieve both corridors. It's just a matter of which one happens to maybe happen first, and that'll depend on how the projects may compare federally with potential federal grants, as well as how we program local Wake Transit Plan dollars to make this happen. And so just from a timeline perspective, I've been here before in spring of 2024 to present the initial refinement of alternatives. I'm here now as we're about to step into our detailed screening of alternatives. And again, I'll kind of explain that process in the next few slides. So we started out with, from a planning perspective, the prior studies that have happened in the area. There have been some small area plans, some comprehensive planning efforts, as well as just identifying roadways that a bus rapid transit style of service could actually operate within. Then we looked at turning movements. Where can these buses actually, operate on the corridor? We looked at ridership from that initial screening perspective in that first evaluation. And we went into a public engagement process in the fall of 2023 with those initial alignments. We are here today again before we start the detailed screening of alignment alternatives, as well as in the future coming back in the summer with what the results of the detailed screening show, as well as the engagement that's related to that phase. And that's going to ultimately result in a preferred route for each one of those corridors that I mentioned, the Midtown Corridor and the Triangle Town Center Corridor. So that again, initial corridor screening looked at all of these roadways: Wake Forest Road, Atlantic, Capitol Boulevard, New Hope Church Road, Lewisburg Road, Old Wake Forest, Fox Road, St. Albans Drive, and Six Forks. At that time, it did not mean that when we looked at a roadway that was the entire alignment. We kind of looked at it as a hybrid opportunity where you could start out on one of those corridors and then travel on to the other whenever it made more sense from a space right-of-way perspective or availability for actually getting bus rapid transit treatments completed in that corridor. And so I think the next couple of slides, again, will show you what those potential alignments could have looked like, and not to say that alignment one would be Atlantic to Six Forks and that's it. Again, we can sort of create these as Frankenstein hybrid alignments when it's all said and done as a preferred route. You can start out on alignment one and then go on to alignment 5 or vice versa. And then on the Triangle Town Center side as well, the next slide shows the different alignments that could connect from downtown Raleigh to Triangle Town Center. That's the next slide. Yeah. And so again, that's the same situation where you don't have to pick one alignment at the moment. We're looking at all the roadway segments, trying to figure out where there's room for some dedicated bus lanes, where there's opportunities for transit signal priority type of investments, queue jumps, or having bus pullouts to get buses in and out of traffic more efficiently. So the next couple of slides really focused on what we did during the fall engagement efforts for that initial screening. So we had 3 open houses in the community. We had a survey that was of 9 questions, really getting at the travel mode choices that the community really kind of grapples with from their day-to-day decision-making process in this area. And there was one interactive mapping activity, again, trying to get a better understanding of where people are trying to go within the study area. Where do they work? Where do they live? And then what some of the attractions are from a recreation perspective that they're trying to get to. An open-ended comment section where you could say whatever you wanted to say, as well as some demographic questions that were optional to the survey. So what we heard from about 422 participants with a lot of comments. Majority of the responses came in from the Midtown Raleigh area, with 26% of the responses coming in along the Triangle Town Center corridor. And I have a highlight on this later on, but I'll just kind of say it now. Even though there's only 26% of the respondents coming in from the Triangle Town Center area, that was more of the predominant transit users within the study area. So next slide, kind of highlighting popular destinations, both between the Midtown and the Triangle Town Center corridors. We saw Wake Forest Road, the Midtown East Shopping Plaza, Duke Raleigh Hospital, and the Eastgate Shopping Center as the kind of the highest in the Midtown area, as well as the Raleigh Ironworks, Crabtree Creek Trail, Wake Med Operations Center on the Atlantic Avenue as some of the higher destinations in the Midtown corridor. And then on the Triangle Town Center side, again, the Raleigh Ironworks, Atlantic Avenue corridor kind of lit up with attractions, as well as the Capitol Boulevard itself, going all the way up to Triangle Town Center with a lot of commercial retail that's on that corridor. Next slide. We asked, again, what impacts your decision-making process. So the biggest impact or convenience was the highest rated factor in terms of how people decide on what mode they choose, in terms of how they get around, as well as the biggest percentage that you see there is 80% of people driving alone in a car. That's kind of normal in Raleigh because there is not a lot of infrastructure in place to actually get transit connections to rely on day-to-day connections there. There is an 8% public transit use within the corridor that is pretty significant as well from the next mode of choice perspective. So again, a lot of that ridership is on Capitol Boulevard and Route 1 that currently serves Capitol Boulevard going out to Triangle Town Center. Next slide. So we also asked from an amenities perspective with bus rapid transit, what amenities really are important to the community, and reliability and frequency. Speed came up the highest over other amenities within the atmosphere. So again, waiting areas, canopy, the actual user experience of how you ride the transit system is important, but what's more important is actually making sure that our services are getting you from point A to point B reliably on time, and are maybe more competitive to you having to choose your car to drive and make that trip. So again, if we can make that balance a little bit closer, then that may impact the decisions that people make. Next slide. So this was the highlight that I was going to try to make, which is, again, The transit reliance by corridor in the Triangle Town Center corridor, almost 50% of the respondents were using transit more frequently or actually using transit versus in the Midtown corridor, that's about 25%. And that's because, again, Midtown corridor right now has some transit services, but they're not all connected the same way as the Triangle Town Center corridor is from downtown Raleigh. So there's multiple routes that serve Midtown and there's some crosstown connections, but there's no direct option from downtown to Midtown in our current system. So in terms of where we're headed with the remaining alignment alternatives that are being considered, for the Midtown alignments, we are looking at alignment 1, which is Atlantic Avenue and Six Forks Road, and alignment 2, which is Wake Forest Road and St. Albans Drive. So again, this is the roadway segments that we will be comparing in this next detailed screening. We could, as a preferred alternative, come up with a combination of those roadway segments that really makes the preferred route in the end. For the Triangle Town Center options, that is looking at Atlantic Avenue and Capitol Boulevard. So alignments 2 and 3, I believe, is what they were identified as in the initial screening. And so our next steps from a planning perspective are to complete the detailed screening through our consultant team that's working on the project, and then have public engagement with the results of what we see as opportunities on all of those roadway segments. Again, trying to really look at where there's opportunities for dedicated bus lanes, where traffic is probably lower on those corridors, and where we can actually achieve some treatments that will help the buses operate more efficiently, as well as create an environment that's connecting our transit users to the different destinations that they're trying to get to. And the goal is to have a preferred alternative identified by the end of this year. And then we would look to identify if any of these corridors may be federally competitive with the federal grant process, then we would submit for a federal grant for that corridor. If it's not, then we would work through our local WIC transit plan funding to identify from a programming perspective when those dollars become available and when we can actually achieve or implement that corridor. And that's, I think, my last slide. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I've got a couple. The first one would be, what percentage of traffic do you think this is going to take off the road, if you have anything like that? The second would be, have you all looked into just having like a flat monthly fee that people get unlimited bus service or something like that? To me, would make a lot of sense.
So I'll answer the second one first, because that's easier. There is a monthly pass that you can purchase for our services, which would be unlimited rides after you have that monthly pass. We also are currently working on technology where if you are paying with your card directly, or if you are an account-based user where you have a card that you're loading with fare, it will cap out with the monthly fee. So even if you don't realize, it'll cap you out with the monthly max, and you won't be paying more than what the monthly pass would be. The first question, which was the traffic, I think that's a little bit more nuanced because the idea there is, again, we're providing a transit solution that is likely to be competitive in some ways to driving car. But you saw that 80% of the users all chose to drive their car in this area. And so from a culture shift perspective, I think transit needs to be better to be able to capture that mode shift a little bit. But there's no studies that show exactly how much of that shift will happen.
Well, somebody ought to get in a car and literally try to ride. Like, if you try to take Capitol Boulevard from downtown and go to Triangle Mall, you're looking at probably a 45-minute ride. If you're in Midtown and you want to go downtown, if you want to take a bus from North Hills, you're looking at 30 minutes.
Yep.
If you want to drive downtown, you're looking at 10 minutes down Capitol Boulevard.
Yep.
So I wish you a lot of luck. But, that's why we all wish you success, but at the same time, the inefficiencies of the bus system have been so bad over the last couple of years. There's also supposed to be a transfer station in this area somewhere at some time. And that goes back like 5 years now, it's been on the books.
Probably even more, but I know
Oh,
the
yeah.
most recent one was,
Yeah.
a few years back. I'll kind of provide an example for what we're seeing on Newbern Avenue. So on Newbern Avenue, the Eastern Corridor, that route currently takes about 30 minutes from downtown to the end of the line. With bus rapid transit, that is cutting that by 10 minutes. So it's going to be 20 minutes, and that's competitive to driving. I mean, driving that route probably 15 minutes. So you're not looking at a significant difference at that time. And so there are opportunities when you add this level of infrastructure for transit that it can be reliable. It's just a matter of, do you have the space to do it? Do you have the funding to do it? And then again, once you've done it, what amount of culture shift or mode shift that you can actually capture from the users.
So I hear you using the term dedicated bus line. Does that mean new roads then? I mean, you can't, if you're gonna have a dedicated bus line and we have 4 lanes of traffic, 2 and 2, so we have to add.
So that's where we look at, again, what the existing traffic is on the corridor, if there's any opportunities to take one of the existing travel lanes to convert that into a dedicated bus lane, and that provides the dedicated bus lanes if the traffic is low enough. If the traffic is significant and we can't do that, so for Newbern Avenue, that is the example that we have, we're actually widening into the median, adding the dedicated bus lanes in the median and leaving the same amount of travel lanes for traffic to still operate within. That's where it becomes challenging for the Midtown corridor. As you all know, Six Forks Road has a limited amount of right-of-way, Wake Forest Road has a limited amount of right-of-way. Atlantic Avenue is now seeing some improvements recently and doesn't have as much traffic, so there may be some opportunities there. So that's what the detailed screening will really look at.
So there are all these unused bike lanes that were set up. Okay, so is that a possibility of converting those to the dedicated bus lanes?
Not necessarily, just because the space requirements of each are different. The bike lanes are 5 to 6 foot sometimes.
Very rarely see a bike rider using these lanes.
Never.
Okay, so there's that was a direction that was not fulfilled. But I do give you credit for setting all the enhanced stations. It is uplifting to see that, because you kind of believe we will have public transportation that's going to function. And I felt sorry for people who used to sit on that sidewalk or wherever at those stations in the past. So that is a plus for the program.
I have one other question. Have you looked at with Uber and Lyft, putting something together, so, because that to me would increase ridership if people got a deal that's integrated with the bus and all that type of thing.
And so there's 2 factors there. We do have studies that look at microtransit. So that is a similar on-demand solution where a vehicle comes to you when you request it. It's normally subsidized Uber, Lyft type of programs that really run that. And then the other part of that would be really looking at mobility as a service solution. So the city doesn't have any plans for this at the moment, but there are a lot of large areas, metropolitan areas, that have done things similar to that, where you provide a one pass type of a environment that could work on Uber, Lyft, a transit system, or for bike share or anything else that's kind of in that envelope of providing a mobility option.
Isn't the city having trouble getting the contracts fulfilled nobody wants to bid on it? And
That is correct. So on Newbern Avenue,
that has not changed.
we have had some challenges on Newbern Avenue with getting it to construction. Part of that was the aggressive timeline that we had identified. We were trying to minimize, and we have a quantity-based schedule through our design engineering team that suggests that it can be done in 2 years. But the contractor community felt differently. There are some risks associated with the project right now, where some of the private utilities were moving out of the corridor that wasn't completely open for construction. And so they felt that the 2-year construction window was really aggressive. Since then, we've had Industry Day, where we invited all the contractors to attend our session, hear about how we're breaking up the project to make it more competitive, take some of the risk out of the project. And we had 9 different contractors that we met with one-on-one to further understand what they thought the risks were in the project. We just recently re-advertised Area 1 for New Bern Avenue. So we've broken it up into 3 pieces. Area 1 is downtown work. Area 2 will be from Pool Road to Sunnybrook, and then Area 3 will be the stations and some of the remaining work. But we do feel that that's gonna lead to a more competitive process, and some of the smaller local contractors in the area will have a benefit of trying to provide bids for that.
How about from a cost standpoint, when you break it down, can you get something within budget?
So on our second bid, we got a single bid that was 60% over engineer's estimate. And one of the reasons why we did not award that contract was there were some abnormalities in how high certain items were compared to what we've seen in other bids that the city has received. And so from a cost perspective, even if we see more competitive bids and they are a little bit over, as long as they're reasonable, we do have some funding mechanisms in the budget to be able to award it as long as it's a reasonable bid.
What percentage is reliant on state and federal funding for just the New Bern portion?
So
What percentage roughly?
Yeah, so New Bern, we submitted it, so it's a $97 million project with about 45 to 46 million coming in federally. And that is executed under a federal contract and agreement. So that one, we feel certain that we have that funding in place. And it would be difficult to remove that funding.
I guess one of the things that you see in most successful BRTs in the country is straightaways. I mean, that's where it works perfectly. So I wonder how some of these could get knocked out pretty quickly. I mean, St. Albans, it's a 2-lane road. Okay, so, you know, if you can proceed through that, use as a cutaway, but 6 Forks without the improvements, not a great option. Wake Forest is nasty now with narrow lanes. So how does this play into the decision-making process where it just really, at first glance, is impractical?
Yeah, and that is the challenge that a lot of our consult team has as they do the detailed screening part at this point. We have 4 roadway segments that we're really investigating from a detailed screening perspective. To get to a 50% dedicated bus lanes, you would have to have plenty of right of way to really fit more dedicated bus lanes in the corridor. If we, at the end of this process, if we come out to see that that's not achievable, then the project may not be federally competitive under a federal process. But we can still achieve some of the treatments that would make it bus rapid transit. So we can still have the buses talking to the traffic signals. We can still try to have queue jumps at different intersections to get the buses out of traffic and into the rest of the corridor.
Yeah, because given the density we have now going on here, obviously better bus transit would be highly desirable, but the connectivity is going to be the big issue.
And so that is another part of the detailed screening that is going to continue to look at opportunities that the development market sees or the future land use plan shows in the city's plan for where growth is happening and how do we connect those nodes that are going to see more growth in the future.
Great.
I have one other question. I noticed one of your maps still has the dotted line for the connection from Capitol Boulevard to 6 Forks, if that road ever gets built. And with the lack of funding for road infrastructure, I look at that as a pipe dream. Will that eventually drop out of your routing process?
Actually, if you go back to the slides that I had in the detailed screening, that alignment's not considered. Okay. And one of the reasons is that is a potential challenge with the alignment is there's no funding identified for how that bridge or a connection is made from Capitol to 6 Forks. There probably is some environmental challenges there as well in considerations. And so the bus rapid transit project can't tackle that as itself. And so
when we had the Midtown plan, we pushed them to try to use Hodges Street, which already connects, and just improve Hodges Street. And they never adopted that. They decided to go with a pipe dream of pushing 6 Forks all the way through to Capitol Boulevard. So that's why you are where you are.
Well, and in some ways, I know from a comprehensive planning perspective, or the City of Raleigh Streets Plan has a lot of these dashed lines that are a wish list of the future connection that can be made. And that's either done through redevelopment, the private redevelopment market. If a site is redeveloping and has this dashed line, and they have to work with the city to try to figure out how they actually make that happen, so.
Any other questions? This is critical for us, by the way, because as I've sent to you in a letter, Six Forks project is again coming up for review. I mean, you would think by now, after probably 15 years, when the cost was much more reasonable, that it would be a done deal, but it's coming up for discussion again. So with Ed here, I think it's important everybody recognizes that if we don't improve Six Forks, and we're not improving all of Six Forks, we're only improving one small section of Six Forks, but the routing, if the BRT goes through, is gonna come from the other end, which there's no money to improve, all the way through the interchange with I-440. And that has more development scheduled to be around it. So if you think it's bad now, it's about to get worse. So, and that builder is actually building, so it all kind of wraps together for us.
If you had enormous development downtown, then the traffic would increase, the pollution would increase, the cost of parking would increase, and magically all of those things, they would be coming to your door, asking when you're gonna set it up.
Right. Now, if you get a little helipad, you could get it done easier. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you so much.
Keep us posted. All right, now, something a little different tonight, and I, again, sent you an email and told you everybody that normally we handle rezonings within Midtown. We've had plenty of them, but of late, the city either goes ahead and does it without rezoning and builds anyway, or there's so much reluctance to build right now because of the cost of building materials and transit and land, that there's a lot of things that have been approved that are just sitting there. And one of these days, when interest rates probably drop, we're gonna become boomtown, but that's all done in the past. Now, Roy Attride's our guest tonight to talk about what's going on in downtown. And it's critical for us because it's a battle we fought before over height for one, but also when they've already had a review by council of the same rezoning and it's being brought back again, new and improved. But I'll let Roy get into what it really is.
Actually, I'll pass around. This is the model that I had built because it's tough to visualize. They're currently zoned for 12 stories to give about 550 housing units. It would be a great project for Raleigh. They're asking for 30. This is the Glenwood Brooklyn neighborhood. This is Peace Street, and then that's Glenwood. And so this is to scale. So this is what the houses look like. This is what the building is that they're proposing to build. So I'll pass this around so you guys can look at it. And I'll just give you a quick overview of the project and I take any questions. First, I should say, why should you care? Not only is it indicative of what city council might do for rezoning going forward, but actually they're cutting against all plans and policies. There's not one policy that would support this, which means that all neighborhoods in Raleigh would be at risk because they're not taking the comprehensive plan or any of their policies into account. And so it could affect every neighborhood. It would affect the ones that are most closely aligned to Glenwood Brooklyn, which would be 5 Points and more to keep, but then it would expand to the rest of Raleigh as well. So the first slide is showing we actually have a website, RaleighNeighbors.com. It should just be a PDF, so you should be able to just page down out of it.
I know. What's that? You got it?
There we go. So I just wanted to make sure that if you ever wanted to get more information on this project, we also set up this website because I would like to have all the neighborhoods come together and get information from one place for a lot of these rezonings. So we did set up a website where we can start pooling this information. It does have right now is all about this project. We want to make it about other projects all around Raleigh and not just make it a single neighborhood issue, but have neighborhoods bind together and have a louder voice and be heard. I spent 3 years on this project. I've done a ton of research. And so I want to help other people figure out how to help make rezonings match the needs of the neighborhood. I want to be really clear. We've said it, Larry, you said it. We are going to grow. We need density. We need housing. We need transit. We can't stay here, we're not putting our hands up against the development and the improvements, but they need to take into account the things that made Raleigh great, our neighborhoods, making sure that we're not overwhelming infrastructure and things of that sort. So this is not a no to all density, this is just, let's make it make sense and let's match the plans that help make Raleigh a great place to live, that we've all made us live here. So this is the website, and so you can get to that. There's a lot of analysis. If you ever can't sleep, I've created hundreds of pages of analysis on how and what this violates, what the important plan policies are, to all help make people aware of the things that are going on and how it cuts across different policies. So the next.
Guys, the work shows, I mean, I've never seen a defense against the rezoning as well done as yours. I mean, you are a good model.
When you fire up an engineer who loves to research, give him a 1,000-page document and people haven't really read it. That's what I've done, is created a summary of that, thousands of pages of information. And by the way, if you read it and you find an error with it, let me know. My goal is to have a factual-based argument, not an emotional-based argument. It's to actually have the city listen to the plans that they have out there, and to work together. So if you find something wrong with it, please let me know. My goal is to have a factual-based argument. So this actually shows the site. So it's right there on the corner of what's going to be Smoky Hollow Park. Capitol Boulevard is a little bit to the right. It is at the edge of the central business district, so it's not in the core area. It is considered right now general, which has a height limitation of 12 stories. So it's listed as having a maximum height of 12 stories in the comprehensive plan. It also does a Capitol Boulevard corridor study, which also has it listed as 12 stories max. And it's 240 feet from homes. So it's pretty overwhelming for the neighborhood. It'd be 850 feet of a 30-story wall. Of course, they won't make it exactly like that, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but it is a pretty massive building. It is also within a transition zone. So there should be some protections at all these different policies and being in the transition zone as well. Next slide. Just a little bit closer, showing the houses, the different streets. It's right now where the, and then West Street going down, and so that's the rezoning area.
Now, Deborah, that's where the park is going to be, right?
Deborah, so the park is actually over here. Parks over here on the side.
And where will the wall be?
Say again?
Where will the wall?
That pink line is along West Street, and so that's this street right here. So that's the way you're looking at it. Yeah, so it goes from the Publix there, if you know where that is, at P Street, 3.5 blocks up.
Had the developers trying to buy the land between what they own and the railroad tracks?
No, because that is slated for high-speed rail. It's designated as low-density mixed use at 4 stories. And so they haven't tried to buy that. Plus that's the Southeast Rapid Transit. I can't remember which one, the one that goes from Richmond down to Raleigh. And so that's slated to be built, again, like everything else here, in the next 10 years. But really, they've been talking about it for 15, I think.
Who is the they? They haven't tried to buy that.
Raleigh Development Company is the developer.
You may have mentioned this. What are you asking for as far as the height limitation?
So it's zoned for 12 stories.
Is the blue?
Is
there?
the blue.
Okay, you're asking for 12?
That's what we would love for them to build. We feel like they could make a lot of money with that. It would create density in housing. It would be a great project. It would give us a taper into our neighborhood, like it's called out in the comprehensive plan. So we'd love to see them build the 12 stories that they have zoned.
And that's what's in the plan now, right?
That's correct.
Well, they're asking.
For 30. Yes.
And it's not part of the comprehensive. I sat in this very room and listened to Mitchell Silver. I am not in this district because we don't have a CAC in my district. But Mitchell Silver was going to be here and Mary Black was going to be here. And they are my district. Though neither one of them has a CAC or any meeting with anybody. And he kept talking about how he helped develop the comprehensive plan and that our problem was we weren't sticking to the plan and nothing ever changes. We never stick to the plan. We just we're gonna rezone. As soon as somebody that wants to develop something comes, they're like, okay, we'll let you do that.
The plans are supposed to save us from that.
People that it doesn't directly affect, like you, I live in Northwest Raleigh. But I don't wanna see it either. I didn't want them to see, I didn't wanna see Red Hat moved, and I have nothing to do with downtown. I don't ever go downtown, it's too far away. But they do this, and then afterwards they say, oh, well, nobody said we could.
Right.
And that's the whole problem, the whole
And
city.
again, the comprehensive plan, and there's, that's another thing, is that they're doing a new comprehensive plan for the city, so you should get involved in that process and have your voices be heard. That's the way these plans get created, but they do need to stick to them because they're made to help Raleigh grow and thrive in a thoughtful and intelligent and planned manner. And you're exactly right. We keep doing these individual zonings, cost neighborhoods a lot of money, cost developers a lot of money. Whereas if we stuck to the plans, we would be able to get a cohesive urban plan that would make Raleigh thrive. And again, to the point that was made, right now interest rates and other things, people aren't building. So a lot of the land in downtown Raleigh, which we don't have a lot, is locked up because they've already been rezoned, but nobody's building them. So it makes each one of these rezonings actually more critical for the city. This one has funding. So now the city really wants to build it because it needs somebody to create more housing, but it doesn't fit here. So again, that like catch-22, which I'm not, I would not want the mayor's job. I would not want city council members' job. They do an incredible amount of work. They hear a ton of rezoning cases. They should be running a city and thinking about the future, but they spend a lot of time on these things because they have to, because they're contentious. But, yeah.
So, with missing middle, do you all have a position on that?
I'm probably not a really thoughtful one. What I can tell you is that my opinion is that missing middle we have to be really careful about how we do missing middle. We need additional housing, but I think just nuking different covenants and other things indiscriminately, not having it go through the rezoning process, like the transit overlay district and some other things. There's some process that I think has been removed that I would like to see added in, not to slow it down or keep it from happening, but to make it more intelligent. Because I think right now it's being kind of ramrodded through over the objections of neighbors, but I also think that there needs to be additional density, and there's places for that to balance, but I don't love the space it's in right now.
Roy, I thought I saw the introduction again of building by height rather than by story. For your information, St. Albans, the planned development that's along St. Albans from Kane in 2016 was all done by lot building heights. And because they didn't want to scare people as to what was to come. And you know, of course, now the hotel is there at nearly 40 stories. I thought that the planning commission had dropped that. I thought they had dropped building by height, and now it has to be by story. So,
you can get it conditioned by height. So this building actually has 360 foot is what they're proposing as a condition.
360 is the size of the hotel here.
Still 30 stories.
36 stories for that one.
Yep.
And nobody recognized it at the time because they just said, okay, it's height.
That's right. That's right. See what's on the next
The
slide.
Eastern Hotel.
Yeah. Let's keep going to the next one.
We got one of those.
So again, I think I hit most of these, but it's really important to note they want 30 stories, 240 feet from the neighborhood. They're offering $1.2 million for affordable housing. We know we need affordable housing. I would rather they built affordable housing into these buildings. The city actually can't force them to do that. It's illegal. So it's up to neighborhoods, if we want more affordable housing, to try to get developers to put it in there. So that's part of my public service announcement. Don't count on the city to do it. They can't force people to do it. It's actually illegal. We have to put it into the conditions of our negotiation to get it to happen. But $1.2 million is less than 1% of the proposed budget. It's $40,000 per unit, which nobody can build $40,000 affordable housing units. So again, it's just not really doing a lot for us and for Raleigh. It does violate all the different plans, 47 different policies, 3 different definitions, and 2 tables. It's only taken me 3 years to come up with 100 pages, boils down to that. If you can't sleep, there's a comprehensive plan analysis. You can walk through it. It's pretty clear. And anytime there's a change, I will update that analysis. So.
Well, can I offer your email just in case I
Sure.
get any inquiries?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can also go to RaleighNeighborsUnited.com, info@RaleighNeighborsUnited.com to get to me as well. And that's where I put down there, it would create a policy framework. So this is straight out of legalese from a lawyer I know, that if they got this through, it would create a policy framework that would create a precedent. So it would rewrite the comprehensive plan and be allowed. So it would no longer even have We wouldn't have anything to fight against it with. I don't think the city will do that, but that's where it could go. I think that's it.
For everybody's benefit, Smoky Hollow, which is right in the same area, has an affordable housing element to it as a condition for affordable housing. The assumption was that as he continued to expand and build new sections of Smoky Hollow, once he gets his market value out of the development, he would then build the affordable housing. Well, that was 6 years ago and it has not been built yet.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, Raleigh's got a problem getting affordable housing built. We're losing more naturally occurring affordable housing a month than we're getting built. I think none of the 40-story towers have been built. None of the actual units have been built in any of those. There has been money that's gone into the affordable housing plan, which the city of Raleigh does use that to actually build affordable housing.
Yeah.
Kings Ridge is a great development. So I don't want to say that there aren't things that are happening. It's just not enough.
Well, in Smoky Hollow's case, council actually denied the providing of money for affordable housing and actually put the condition to build the affordable housing.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty good case.
Yep.
I probably don't understand this very well, but this has already been turned down once,
That's correct.
and they're back. How did
There's
they
a
come
2-year,
back so
right. There's a 2-year grace period. So basically they can refile after 2 years, but they actually petitioned council to come back early. And that was approved 6-2.
Why? What argument could they make?
Because that was
Is something great that they came up with?
That's the plan.
No.
Is a huge change here?
No, and
The ground is
I
glowing?
try not to be cynical about it. They said they were giving money to affordable housing, and that was a big enough change to re-warrant their application, and 6 city council members said that they agreed.
1 million.
1.2 million.
That's all it takes to get
Well, there's also
reconsidered.
transition zone.
Yeah, that's in order for them to refile for a waiver, they have to have a material change condition. And they use the fact that we got a transition zone to say the conditions in the area changed. So again, if I were a lawyer, I would say there was a materially changed condition and therefore they could refile. I would have thought that that didn't make it more likely, it made it less likely and it should have been denied. Logic and engineer, we go together, it doesn't always go into politics. But that was the argument.
And this thing is bordering the new park.
This side would be all park.
Maybe there'll be a glimmer wall or something too.
Oh, there'll be a glimmer wall every time the sun rises and every time the sun sets. The glimmer wall will be on that
Well,
side
they won't see this.
in the morning and on that side in the afternoon.
They won't see
People
the
in those
sun.
houses don't get to see the park.
No.
So I know there's a lot of reasons here, but
It's a,
is it really the main one that there's this wall here with the, I don't know how many units down there that are essentially gonna be behind the wall? I mean, is that really the major reason on this thing?
I mean, so our major issue with it is just the fact that it would give shadow, glare, and be a huge wall that would block the neighborhood. It would affect basically all of those houses. Now this is a complete sheet, but on the winter solstice, some of those houses wouldn't see sun until 11 a.m.
Okay, yeah.
So the 9 a.m. shadow would go
So
to
how
here.
many houses are we talking about?
So there are 350 in the neighborhood, probably about 75 to 80 of them would actually be affected
Okay.
directly by the shadow. But we're densely populated, which means pretty much everybody would have this wall. It would be viewable from Fletcher Park, the top of Fletcher Park, all the way over to Wade Avenue.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be the second largest building in all of Raleigh.
So 380 houses, 90 that are gonna be in the shadow.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And is this a mixed use building?
It is.
About how much of that building is gonna be actual dwellings?
The first floor is supposed to be the commercial, and then the rest of it's supposed to be residential. And it's gonna be rental, not sale.
Can the city council just dismiss something with prejudice, means we don't ever want to hear about this again?
I assume they can do that, but I've never seen them do that. This was the first rezoning of this type that had been denied in quite a while.
Yes.
They've been pulled before.
Now, you're just at the neighborhood meeting stage, right?
That's
now.
correct. Yep, so
they
we're at
still
the
have-
beginning,
Yeah.
but the important part is to get people just to pay attention to it. As we all know, it's tough to
Yes.
get people to come to meetings, it's tough to get people to pay attention with the world being as crazy as
As I
it
say,
is.
you have commonality to Midtown because we went through the same thing with North Hills.
Yep.
Where there was an understanding of building hybrid, built right into the plan and, well, they rejected, well, they withdrew it.
That's right, they withdrew it.
But I think they'll be back.
Yeah, oh, I assume they would be back. And again,
I think they'll follow
pay
the
attention
same
to what's
path.
happening with the new comprehensive plan, because it's coming and it will be the next.
I think they're gonna follow your case.
Yeah, I think they probably will.
Do you have a mailing list that all people that want to continue to be informed about this project, that can sign up and
Yep.
learn about that? That's the biggest problem all over town. Only spots of people
Yep.
know what's even going on with this stuff, and only a small handful of people really follow what the Water City Council is doing. So they need connections. You've done one of the best jobs of analyzing the project anybody's ever done in this city. We need to get the word out, because most people
Absolutely.
that hear about this are totally floored at what's going on.
Yep, that's why I had the model created as well. So if you go to RaleighNeighborsUnited.com, there's a keep informed. And so that will send me an email.
That known in writing to people here, might want.
Yep.
Or let people sign up here, give you.
Oh, absolutely. I'll stick around and yeah, put it down. That'd be great. That's a good thought.
Did the people trying to get this passed invite people out to McKibben Center?
Yes, that was the meeting that we had last week. Yes.
Okay, so were there any heads that turned over that? Did somebody say, okay, I agree, that had disagreed before?
So we had about 100, we had over 100 people there. I think it was closer to 120. I think a little over 110 of them were against it. And then there were a couple of people who spoke for it, for development, and other things. And the model definitely let people know what we were looking at. In fact, I had little models made for each one of the city council members that I could hand to them and the mayor, because it's really hard. It's an abstraction to say this is really big and it's going to affect people's lives. And it's another thing to actually see the physical model. And so that was really meaningful to them, which is why I brought it to it. And the one thing I will say is that the developer they presented a new plan that basically will be 30 stories through half of the building and then it'll drop to 20 stories. And that's not a huge difference, but it is, I want to be really accurate with the information that I'm portraying. They did offer to drop it down to 20 stories for the second half of the building going north. Sir.
I think our civic leaders should be primarily concerned about the quality of living, not quantity.
We've got a balance between we have to have housing because there's, 120,000 units below where we need to be able to house all the people in Raleigh. So we've got a big problem with not having enough housing, but we can't compromise everything on every project individually to achieve that. We've got to have a plan, comprehensive plan that brings all these things together, and it's got to take into account quality of life and other things. I mean, one of the reasons why you don't build 30 stories in every single corner of downtown and everywhere else is because that would actually decrease the livability of the city, the walkability, the affordable housing if it's not a big part of it. So you've got a lot of things in urban planning that would tell you not to do that. But again, the mayor and city council have a tough job to try to figure out how to get housing into a tight space. But again, you can't burden every neighborhood that have opportunity. So
I would point out at the last comprehensive, the comprehensive plan is under review right now. And at the April meeting, Bynum pointed out, Bynum Walters is from the planning department. Rent's down about 1% in the city, which considering how fast it grows is amazing. So missing middle, the loosening of the zoning has allowed the market, not a government plan, but the market to put enough housing in place for our young people. So say what you want, but Seaboard is walkable. And so I would ask, what is your neighborhood zone for right now?
it's a R10.
Is it R10?
Yep.
So townhomes can go in and.
Well, it's a historic overlay
Yeah, see,
district too.
I understand it, but you're also in an area that's gonna have to give someday.
Oh, no,
Because the city will eat you at some point.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
this may be too big right now.
Right.
But your neighborhood won't survive.
But that's the
It's
12
first
stories. Right now, this is at
I
one,
do.
this is at one story for the entirety of it.
And I think 30 stories, and I'm as pro development as there is, I think 30 stories may be a little too tall for that area.
Right.
But every area, especially adjacent to downtown, is gonna have to give. And, I'd rather, even if the quality of life is a little lower, I'd rather have my son housed than have his quality of life not be this bucolic, wonderful suburban thing mythically think is perfect. So homeless sucks. Having a house, it's pretty good, and having an apartment is fantastic when you had nothing before. So like I said, probably too tall, but rents are down in Raleigh, and Raleigh has done very successful compared to all of its peer cities for providing housing.
I think it's second only to Portland. There's three other municipalities.
But we're beating Austin's butt for creating more housing and everything else. We've done a build, and it's making homes available and apartments available for human beings who deserve housing.
I wouldn't argue any of those principles except for the fact that it takes a dialogue and not overriding each other. And again, some of those policies have worked, but I think there's other policies that haven't worked, like we haven't created as much affordable housing. We haven't been able to create as many housing units in certain places. We don't have time limits on rezoning, which means somebody could sit on a 40-story tower and never build it. So there's all these other things. I don't disagree with what you said, though. We have done a good job. And I'm not fighting against that because, again, I love the city and I want it to continue to grow. I just think we've got to bring all those voices together to try to make it happen.
You've been in Raleigh a long time.
35 years.
Yeah. So we used to bring voices together, and we had Cox and Stevenson, Steph Mendel, and Kay Crowder, and we couldn't build shit anywhere.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways.
It does. It does. Well, and that's one of the reasons why I created this organization, was to try to create something in the middle that will get things done and not just be a no, because no doesn't help us move forward. And so I'm trying to be in that middle space of understanding density has to happen, housing has to happen. We've got to solve these problems. And I don't have a magic wand to do any of it, but I think that dialogue and those other things have to happen. And you can't do it by running ramshot over plans that actually have worked. And just indiscriminately creating independent zoning areas of height and without taking into account.
I would argue Houston has done, and it's more successful than LA, New York, or Chicago.
You might know more than I do, which is not say, I mean, I don't know everything there is about an plan, but I appreciate it. I appreciate the comments. Any other thoughts?
I think that's part of it. None of us want to live in LA, New York, or Chicago. That's part of it.
Well, I think that we talked about it, the transit, housing, the transit nodes, the missing middle, the transit overlay districts, all of these things are part of how we're going to be able to move forward, but they got to play well together. It's kind of like having a medical staff that's not talking to each other right now, and certain things are happening in different ways, but none of them are really bringing a cohesive nature to it, which again, the comprehensive plan is supposed to help do that, but I don't necessarily see it really accomplishing that goal because it keeps being going against in different places. Anyway.
Well, like I said, it's a shame you have to go through this twice.
Oh, yeah. And if they don't build something, I'll be back again and again and again. Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. If there are any other questions, I will take anybody's contact information that wants to be on the mailing list and learn more about this. And again, if you can't sleep, I can send you information that will help you go to sleep at any point in time.
Thanks, Roy. Well done. Stop the show.
Tell us about our city councilors, where they are. Where are the city councilors tonight?
Oh, good. I know they're in Kansas City out in the storms. Hopefully they won't get blown away. But I don't know why they're in Kansas City. Does anybody know why they're in Kansas City? I did send a note to the city and ask why they're in Kansas City.
They do go like every other year somewhere, right?
Is this a sister city thing?
It might be. They went to Seattle one year. I mean, they do.
Yeah.
Every other year they go to a city and do, what's your best practice? Here's what we're doing. What do you do differently?
Yeah.
What did you learn? So
I could never figure out.
I don't know how much they actually accomplished.
Yeah, and I don't know why they don't go to local communities, why they don't go to Virginia or, someplace else that's functional.
They've done Austin. I mean,
Like Virginia has BRT, why they don't go up there?
Larry, that might be the chamber annual event.
Oh, it is?
I believe so. I think it was Kansas City.
Okay. There's one explanation.
So, I mean, and
if I get a response from the city, I'll let you know.
They've done, I mean, I've been on a number of them myself. They've done Boston, San Diego, Kansas City, Austin. They do it every year. It's sponsored by the chamber, and generally most of the city council goes, as well as a lot of city representatives. And they are really well done meetings. I mean, they do engage with people in similar positions, and they talk about things that are working in their cities, things that aren't working in their cities. And it's a good outing. I mean, it actually has generally business leaders from the area go, as well as local political leaders, and a lot of nonprofits also go out as well. So I forget the formal name for it, but it's run by the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce, and it's really well done.
Okay, good to know. I mean, what I was gonna say was, it is budget time for the city. It's almost May. They should be meeting about the budget since they have to approve it in June. They've done a lot of workshops on different elements of the budget. They've asked different departments what they want. They haven't asked the public what they want. Road infrastructure, based on what's going on with Six Forks Road. It's a question whether the city is putting enough money into infrastructure or whether they should put money into infrastructure. You know, whether they should put people first, pay the police, pay the firemen, what they should be compensated for, pay the staff, which is still at least 10 to 14% understaffed within the city. So it's hard sometimes to get responses from the city. I know you got something to say, David. So my opinion is, it's important to set priorities for the budget before they just get banged with it at the end and are asked to approve it. So just watch it. I say that every meeting, just watch what they're doing about the budget. Now, David?
The end of May, the final comprehensive plan meeting reflecting Raleigh that series. That'll have Joe Nicosi, which is the gentleman I sent you from Urban 3.
Okay.
So Urban 3, Strong Towns, I know I'm just talking to a wall in here. They had people, interns at the Raleigh City Council thing from UNC Chapel Hill, and guess who they study school? It's strongtowns.org. If you are not familiar with how urban planning is going forward.
I put your link.
I'm just letting you know, that's just coming to speak. So if you want to talk about budget, they're having somebody talking about budget, tax revenue, and all the things that you just said. They're having that guy come at the end of May. So
Okay.
that might be interesting for some people if they care as much as you do.
Yes, and I will probably be there. What I was gonna say, I almost lost my train of thought. Going along with the comprehensive plan, city has put out an invitation for, and if I get the term wrong, correct me, David. It's called a citizens assembly, is that correct?
Civic assembly or citizens assembly,
Something like that, which is, it's not a new term, it's been around, it's being adopted by cities across the country. And we've had things similar to it before. When we had the Midtown plan was the perfect model. Had a lot of community engagement. There was, at the end of all the input from the people and all the surveys they did, they put together a community, what's it called? It's like a final review from people within the community, stakeholders and community members, residents. And after that, with the help of a consultant, they put together the final report. The final report went up to planning commission, was reviewed, all the elements, some things were changed. It was, I thought, a perfect process. This other one that they're advertising for, I suggest everybody look at it. I'm a little leery of it only because at one point it talks about, step 4, it talks about this group advising staff. And I thought it should have been perhaps staff advising the community rather than the other way around. So I'm a little leery about what this thing is going to grow to, but I know it is a national practice. It's something to watch who winds up signing up for it, see how it develops, and that's going to occur over the next month. I think the deadline to apply for it was tomorrow, if that's correct. So yeah, so it's short term, so you should see more about it very shortly. And I'll try to get more information about it as well. Nancy, you asked about leaf collection.
Yeah.
I can show you the slide if you're interested, but the bottom line was the consensus was basically they got to do it better or not do it at all. The consensus I thought was that they were going to try to do it better. One option was to contract it, and I know that's not a path to go down. But the problem is with the leaf collection, as I see it, we were lucky. This community was lucky because if we hadn't had luminaries, The first leaf pickup would have been first week of February. Well, there's no leaves coming down in February. They were all piled up in the street or down the street in the gutters by then. But one of the thoughts was to have a better process of picking up leaves on a constant basis, instead of trying to do it just within a couple months, to do it throughout the year. But in reality, the leaves only fall from October through January. But it'd be nice if they would just maybe do it weekly, instead of letting them build up and then circle around and try to pick them all up. So that's all under discussion. There's a workshop, you can go to the workshop, it was April 8th. It's posted on the demand site, so you can watch the video of it. They didn't make any decisions, it's gonna come back up in front of council, and I assume it probably won't come back up until after they finish the budget cycle, until they figure out where their money is going, because I doubt very much they're gonna look into something that might cost them more money before they settle on the budget.
So one of the
might be
options was
wrong.
to totally do away with the leaf pickup system.
That was one possibility. It didn't seem like council went for the doing away of it. So, but most of the councilors do reside downtown, not where the trees are anymore.
They picked up our leaves for the first time in mid-March. They've been in the street since October.
Really? That's what would have happened here if we hadn't had the luminaries.
Oh, we did the luminaries for 2 years and whoever with the HOA.
So the trick is always
Didn't get
always
the
have
fall.
luminaries. You
Yeah,
always wanna have luminaries.
yeah, we had luminaries anyway. We actually had people setting their luminaries on top of the piles of leaves.
Wow.
I just was, they just not do leaf collection at all. Let
Yeah.
everybody deal with, I deal with my own.
One of the suggestions was to give everybody another yard cart and 15 bags to collect leaves in. Putting leaves in bags works for some people, I guess.
Well, this didn't used to be a problem.
No.
I used to get my leaves collected before Thanksgiving.
Used to pick them up 4
in
times a year.
January, you know.
Yes. But again, like I said before, we are understaffed, we are under-equipped, and that's why it's now a problem. And costs are higher,
And our taxes are going up.
and taxes will definitely go up, so.
Larry,
At some point, there's a balance.
I'll just throw this out there, it's probably not popular, but the fact of the matter is, people don't adhere to the dates they're given by the city. They put the leaves out, they put them in the street.
Right.
They sit there, it rains.
Right.
It's a mess.
Right.
So, you know, one of the things is there enforcement happens? No, unfortunately not, because actually there's no penalty. It's not even a misdemeanor to enforce it.
Right.
The other thing is commercial, you know, people have commercial people come in and move their leaves. They are supposed to haul the leaves away. They are not supposed to swim in the street or on the curb, and they do.
Right.
So it creates a mess. It's sloppy every year.
Right.
You do have the exception where a nonprofit, and we're lucky, we got a nonprofit that can say, hey, come get our leaves so we can put our luminaries. And the city, you know, backs it up, which is great. But at the same time, you have a yard cart and you have a 15-bag run.
Right.
It costs a lot of money to send these trucks around. You can't plan on the weather. They break down.
And
Isn't
the
this
yard carts are not automated. They put them on their little
Exactly,
extension
they
of the back
gotta,
of
they
the
gotta
truck.
hitch them
and
up
then
and
dump
flip them in.
So
But,
it's
you know,
labor
the point
intensive.
becomes where you sort of become responsible, and is there a better way to be spending this money? You know, I mean,
Yes.
it's leaf collection.
Let's take a fast poll here. How many people would be in favor of improving the leaf collection? Okay. How many people like the way the leaf process is currently?
Just to be clear, I bought one of those little $150 things where you pour them in and it's like 2 weed whackers going in reverse. And it turns it into nothing, and I have a huge tree in my front yard. I'm not trying to be funny now or cute. It's about an hour and a half at time. Sometimes I'll use a teenager if I can find one available for $30, but I can get everything.
One more question. How many people would be in favor of getting rid of the leaf pickup program?
People pay for their lawns to be mowed, they can pay for their leaves to be cleaned up if they can't do it
But there's
themselves.
one other question. How many people compost their leaves?
Well, that's what you can do if you shred them. I mean, it makes it easier. If you shred them,
We just shred it what you want, right?
go on, or whatever you want to use. If you vaporize your leaves, you can basically put them
I
in a
shred
pile.
them and I put them in the woods where they came from.
Claire,
All right,
Claire, I know if they would come and pick up the green thing every week rather than every other week.
that's one of the suggestions.
I can almost keep up with it.
Yes,
But as it is, I fill it up every time for months, and I still have a ton of leaves in the back.
that's really what I'm in favor too, is to just make it a regular thing. Not all year round, I mean, just do it when the leaves are coming.
Just leaves it.
That was not an option. They talked about doing it every week, all year round, and they didn't cost out just doing it from October to January, February. So,
I send them, I complain every year. Every single year, my husband and I go through the neighborhood and take pictures and send it to them because I live, not too far from here, in a very, very leafy area. Well, it's getting less leafy. They just took down one big, huge, beautiful oak tree on a corner that wasn't doing anything to the house, but, oh yeah, let's take that down. They don't save anything, but yeah, and so I suggested to them, okay, you can make a whole lot of money by instigating a penalty and just hire somebody to go around these neighborhoods and everybody's got their daggone leaves in the street, you give them a fine. Yes. You could get a lot of money that way. B, pick it up once, pick it up in each neighborhood one time, and after that, they have to get bags.
that's basically what happened.
Easy kind of thing to do bags.
That's basically what happened here, when they made the pickup in the middle of December. That was the bulk of the leaves.
Mhm.
By the time they came around in January, February, March, there weren't any. I mean, people could handle it themselves, but that one pickup in December got probably 90%.
It all depends on where you are in your zone, is where they're gonna
Yeah.
farm.
And they-
Last.
We would have been
It
less.
changed.
We would have been February, March.
And what they should do is survey each of the areas to see who has the most leaves, because a lot of neighborhoods don't have any. Or have very little, and then the ones that have the most that are, from October to February, our whole neighborhood is one little lane down the front. I get massive allergies, and so does my dog, from the leaves that stay there and turn moldy. And, so survey the places that have the most and do those at that convenient time when they've fallen and they're making a big mess.
Yeah.
And it just.
So watch for that conversation to occur at council, but it should be coming back to council. They had the workshop on it, it should
I
be coming
couldn't
back.
find them. You think you talked about that was online somewhere? Because I looked.
I'll send you the link.
Okay. 'Cause
I'm
wasn't
serious
finding
down there,
it.
just say we're doing away with it.
That was the suggestion.
Greensboro did, don't,
They do?
yeah, it can happen. Don't say it can't happen, it can happen.
The council,
Nothing
the council consensus seemed to be to just improve the process. Not sure which way it'll go, but.
See, here's what I don't understand is this never was an issue back before. And it seems like when we grow, we ought to be getting economies of scale, yet we
Doesn't work
move
that way.
backwards. And it's not just this city, but it seems like that's sort of a universal type concept.
At some point-
No one could explain to me why that is. We
At
ought to
some
know.
point, you have to budget what true priorities are, and
So to this point though, part of it is the city continues to expand outwards. And that area that we're expanding out to has a lot more trees and the houses aren't packed in as close, so it's some of the challenge, not all of it, some of the challenges is that sparsely dense, up where I'm at in North Raleigh and North Ridge and everything else.
Yeah.
There's not enough houses per square, whatever. North Ridge is,
you guys don't have the
Yeah, but
trees.
Northridge has been there for a while.
yeah, I mean, that's what northern Raleigh looks like. As you go north, it's just
But
suburbs.
that's not new stuff, though. is what
Well,
I'm saying.
Wakefield is, everything north of 540 is new.
Some
Bedford.
All right, let's come back to some order. Is there anything from the audience that you guys want to talk about, want to find out information about? Cynthia asked about ADUs. I am gonna try to get more information on ADUs. David, you might know, I thought they were still changing the rules for ADUs to get more ADUs being built. It was very restrictive before, but they weren't getting many permits to build many ADUs.
They've got a bunch of permits now. One of the things that so the permits for ADUs fall under missing middle.
Right.
So they're pretty much being permitted left and right as people apply. What they're trying to do is get certain templates or pre-approved plans. So it's an even quicker planning review. So it's like, if you choose one of these 10, check off the box and it's just a smoother, that's my understanding is it's kind of gonna be if you want, you can do your customized ADU and have us look at these extra things. But if you do something that checks all these boxes on our checklist.
And it was 800 square feet. Now it's 2-story, could be 1,200 square feet.
I think so. I thought it was also tied to the size of the house, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. And ADUs can be used for rental purposes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's plans that are actually on they have it on one side.
Yeah, they were actually looking for companies to.
So they're
submit.
actually pre-approved plans,
Yeah.
so if you select one of those, it actually accelerates the process, like I said.
So anyhow, that's the kind of thing, if you have topics you want to talk about or bring people in for, in good shape. So I think, Steve.
Yes. So very quickly, not a lot. So in community connectors, Z-45-24, that's the Litchford Road, 7015 and 19, those are 2 plots on Litchford. That was actually approved on April 1st by the city, so that one went through. Z-39-24 is the one on Honeycutt, technically extra judicial section. It's outside of A, but since it's on Honeycutt, everybody sort of in A is attuned to it. That one is waiting. The developer submitted changes, including pedestrian access. There were concerns about the way the road may have to be realigned coming out of there. So that was a big concern up there. They're waiting on a signature from the developer. I don't know if that's happened yet. If that's received, there'll be a May 6th public hearing. So the planning commission approved that one 4-2. So that one is going to go to public hearing and then we go to council. Switching gears to parks and recreation. So locally, this one actually does affect us locally. This is pretty cool, and you want to look this up. The board, and I'm on that board, approved the schematic for the Sertoma Park Art Center. So this is a total redo of that art center, and if you've been there lately, you know it needs a redo. So this includes everything from pottery to photography, painting and everything like that. A really nice redo of that spot there. It will maintain that's actually one of our few parking lots in the neighborhood. For those of you who didn't know that, you can actually go there, park, hop on a bus and go downtown. So that was approved. So what'll happen now is that's a schematic, that's the initial design. It'll go to council for approval.
Now that came out of the bond, right? That's a bond project.
Yeah, it's a bond. It's one of the bond projects. Also one of the bond projects, the River Cane Wetland schematic. So this is on Kyle Drive. This is sort of off on the other side of 401, so you probably don't see this, but we did approve this as well unanimously, and that will eventually go to council as well. In addition, the Gibson Park at Dick's, that is now scheduled to open sometime in June. It's you can go online and you can find a few previews of it out there. It's impressive. It will be the largest, you call it an adventure park. So it's not something a lot of us are gonna do. You're not gonna be doing the rope climb and everything like that, but it'll be the largest adventure park in the Southeast. So if you've been to the Museum of Life and Science out in Durham and you've seen the climbing park and everything like that, that they have out there, this is like that on steroids. So it's a pretty cool development that they've done there. And so that'll open in June. There'll probably be some previews, but that's pretty much everything I got.
Okay.
Any questions? Great.
Steve, for your benefit, one of the items that the CACs have been asking for is to equip the community centers for hybrid meetings. In other words, provide everybody with an owl, with whatever technology is necessary to do hybrids. I thought it was a done deal. In talking to Kevin, Kevin's response was he got the word that it's still under discussion. But that is one of the, because always a question of cost, who is going to pay for it? So the intention was either be community engagement or be the Parks Department would pay for equipment to community centers. So not just us, but any group who wanted to have a local community meeting, whatever, be able to come in, broadcast it back out. And that supposedly is in the works for your benefit too.
We are gonna have a retreat, I think it's next month. So, it'll be the first time, I think in 2 years, the Parks Board has had a retreat. So we'll be doing that in May, and, you know, hopefully we'll see some, you know, that'll be one of the things we can certainly discuss.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
You mentioned something about the sixth force plan coming up again for review. What's up with that?
I've been trying to get information about what's going on with Six Forks. And believe me, I started with once I found the project planner, all the way up to the person in charge of transportation. I tried to get them out here to talk to us. They will not come. They're again questioning the budget for the road work. It's again beyond the budget, the extended budget that they approved last year. They've now exceeded that budget amount. I think now they're up to, let's see, we're up in 70 million, I think, last year when they approved it. Now I think the projection is 90 million, which I don't understand. The reason I asked the questions was the property purchases, the right-of-way negotiation was supposed to be complete by, I thought, last fall or maybe early spring. So those costs should all be behind them already. I've heard stories about one of the things that they're concerned about is moving the utility lines, of what they may find when they go to move the utility lines, whether they'll hit underground pipes or wires or whatever. So the point is, I can't get any details, but since the cost is now up to $90 million, they want to reevaluate it one more time. Now, one of the things they're coming back with is to not widen the lanes. Now, what's the point of doing it if you're not going to widen the lanes? I mean, the previous study found the lanes go anywhere from 8 feet to 10 feet. Now, anybody who's got an oversized vehicle and trying to go through an 8-foot lane, just like Wake Forest Road, is scared to death. I don't want my wife driving anymore, especially if there's a truck next to you or a bus on an 8-foot wide lane. And if eventually it's going to be a BRT route, buses are not going to go up and down 8-foot lane roads. So that's what pushed the Six Forks project. It was supposed to, one thing it was supposed to do was connect a walkway all the way from Millbrook down to North Hill. So you have a continuous walkway, or at least a continuous sidewalk. And they seem to have forgotten about that part. So, and then the other thing was to make the lanes uniform at 10 feet. And they even went to the state to get the state to modify it from 11, which it should be, to 10 feet, just to get them consistent. So sometime in May, it was supposed to be early May, they were supposed to come back to council and present again. They've now put that off. I can't get a date, but it's supposed to be in May. So just when I find out, I'll let everybody know what it would be. But if you get a chance, I might as well just wait until I get more detail. I'll send out a note and then I'd say start sending notes to the council. Just get it done. You know, like Atlantic, you know, they're still working on Atlantic, they're still working on Falls of Noose. You know, Wake Forest Road, the interchange is supposed to be another diverging diamond. How they're gonna do it, I don't know. Because what's holding them up is they couldn't figure out how to divert traffic and they're gonna do the road construction. Because there's nowhere for them to go. That's been delayed out, I don't know when that'll get done. But then you begin to think, you know, if it takes them so long to do a road project, like Falls of Noose, which I thought was done, and they're still working on it. I think we have a concession on orange barrels, but do you really want them to work on the road? It'll take them 3 or 4 years. That's like Western Boulevard's diverging diamond. It just, you know, they're never done. So it's
Well, you don't
all,
want to do Wake Forest and Six Forks at the same time.
Right.
Because Wake
Right.
Forest is how you get somewhere at Six Forks.
Right.
You know, I mean, I know that, our church has been in negotiation with them because they're taking
Still?
our land. Yeah, we had a meeting on it at church about a month ago, I think, and they had made an offer, and so.
Wow.
Coming back.
Which church is that?
Grace Lutheran.
okay.
And it's across from Hudson.
Because I know some of the
Just
property,
right up from Hudson.
some of the property owners I know have reached a settlement.
One of the property owners, the city owns one of the houses at the top of North Glen, and they've made a negotiation with the one that's next door to our church. Because what we were doing was trying to see whether we could purchase the part that the city's not buying of that guy's property,
Okay.
because they're only buying like up to the corner of his house or something, I don't know.
Okay.
It was weird instead of the whole thing, and we were gonna buy the rest of it, see if we could put an exit there, because they're shutting off, turning into our property.
Right. And if you remember, you know, at one point we actually had maps. Did you
Yeah.
see the interchange? You
see
can
it.
see what the road looked like. I don't know what they did with them. I can't get them to even find them.
Well, the other thing that I found really interesting, and I live on Glen Valley, which you come down North Glen, Grace Lutheran's right here, come down North Glen, and then down Glen Valley, we're cut through into the back neighborhoods, and people use that, I mean, they go
Right.
speeding down my road. But, you know, so to go anywhere, I have to get out on either Six Forks, Mill Road, or drive through the neighborhoods back over to there. Well, what I noticed was ever since the pandemic, the traffic on Six Forks is not nearly as bad as it used to be at certain times, particularly the early and later times. And during the day, I have no problem at all getting in and out on Six Forks, which is interesting. I think it's because of maybe people's working at home. I mean, half my neighborhood is at home working. I mean, I got one on the street, you know, that's two young people, they both work at home and they got a nanny who's pushing the kid all the time. I mean, it's hysterical. But our neighborhood is full of people who work at home, and so they're not getting out and driving anymore. So it makes me wonder if, you know, if that's the way that the world.
I think
is
it's the
going.
lights. I think it's the lights too. The lights favor direct traffic on Six Forks. So if you come to a light from a side street, now, if no light, you can get out on the road. But if you come to a light on side street, it's gonna take you forever to enter Six Forks. It takes a lot longer than it probably should. It's probably a 4 or 5 minute light.
Yeah, I found a couple.
And if you
of
try
lights.
to drive up Six Forks, say to get up to the park, the North Hills Park, sometimes it'll take me half an hour to come from this area to drive up Six Forks to try to get up to the park for a meeting.
Which park is that?
Optimus Park.
Oh, the Optimus.
So it does depend on the time of day. If you got a 6 o'clock meeting at the park up there,
Yeah.
forget it.
You know, but, I mean, I've been able to get out, because I have to get out there, I mean, all during Easter, you know, I was serving Easter meals at the church, and I had to be there at 5 o'clock, and basically the easiest way, and I almost never go up and turn on North Glen either way. I mean, one of the first year I was here, I got hit trying to make a turn in there, so I just don't use it. But in order to get to my church, that's kind of the way I have to do it, because I go up and then turn on into my church. And I didn't really have any real problems at 5 o'clock. And I was like, where?
Well, my point to them is if nothing else, at least get the lanes uniform, at least
Yes.
10-foot
Yeah.
wide. And the rest, I really don't care what they do.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what are they putting in?
But I'm just telling you, one of the options was to just drop the project.
Yeah, well,
So they did back, a year and a half ago, they had a big Mary had a big presentation out, Sertoma, on this, and they were showing all these options with the sidewalks and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're scaling down.
I don't know what they're doing.
they're
I mean, I
only
just don't
scaling
know.
it down once.
They're probably on their 6th or 7th project engineer. So,
This is like, it's never gonna get done.
Do you know anything, still talking about roads? I just read recently that they said they could enlarge the lanes on Capitol Boulevard, add lanes if they made it all a toll road. You heard anything about
I
that?
saw that.
Was like, really?
Yeah.
It'll be partial toll.
No, they said they could make it all toll, they could start a lot sooner, but you'd have to pay a toll from 540 north.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do about that, because, I mean, I don't understand why they didn't make 540 a toll road in the northern portion. If you wanna make instant money, just slap a toll on that piece of the road. People that pay the toll, I used to work out in the park, and people who would come in from the southern side, that's all they would complain about all the time, is the toll on 540.
But making Capitol from there up to Wake Forest, I mean, there's a lot of people that live and work in those
That's a very
areas
busy
that
stretch of road.
come in,
Yeah.
and it's gonna cost them a
We
fortune.
would
Yes.
all have to pay
Yes.
the
And there's,
toll.
yeah, and there's no real alternative.
Yeah.
And when they
Well,
start that
neighborhood roads, they'll all
project,
go on neighborhood roads.
and when they start that project, Falls and News will become nonstop.
Well,
You will not,
that's
you will
what I
not
was
get up,
talking
yeah, you will
about.
not get up Falls and News. That's a natural parallel road. And that's the trouble with all these. You need a parallel road to divert traffic on. Old Wake Forest Road doesn't have a parallel road, except Capitol Boulevard, so. Anything else? Any other complaints? How's the city doing?
Well, but that Capitol Boulevard project has been in discussion since 2002.
Yes,
And they can't fund it.
yeah,
Tolls are the only way they can fund it.
yeah.
The people who chose to live in Wake Forest and Roseville don't pay enough in taxes to cover the cost of that road going from where it is up to there. They don't.
If it was an ideal world,
They don't.
if it would be an ideal world, the toll money they collect from the road, they could put into the rail line that would run from Wake Forest into the downtown road.
Either way, you're gonna have to collect money from somewhere to live. There's a consequence for living that far out. I mean, I'm with you. I used to when I worked at Cisco, I would ride out on that toll road. I loved it, because for $5, I got rid of everybody else.
Yeah.
I was doing
I really think
75
it-
by myself in an old Honda, and it was
Yeah.
fantastic.
I'm with you, I think it's,
So
it's,
you can afford it, you know, it's.
the only trouble is the tolls go up and up and up.
Yeah.
Once you put in tolls,
And they don't go away. after
no, they
you
never
pay
go
for
away.
it.
Just make sure you pay the tolls that you're gonna get tips with that.
Right. Make sure you pay your bill on time, because by the time you get your notice,
Tolls
usually you're late.
Tolls are a use tax, though. I mean, from a tax perspective, it's a use tax, which means if you're using it, you're paying for it. If you're not using it, you're not paying for it, which has a benefit for those who choose to live in other locations and other setups and what have you. Then it makes another location perhaps more attractive.
Yes,
But if you just had the one toll lane, so if you wanted to pay toll to go faster.
One of the options we're looking at now, I think they're gonna do it. Again, it's 20 years.
all right, I'm gonna close the meeting, let you guys fight over the tolls on the road. Thanks for coming out, and we're early for a change.